We'll call the meeting to order. Have approval of the minutes of November 1st, 2021. Any motion
Can I
made?
make one small
Sure.
amendment to apologize for rushing in?
And then there's just a few little changes, and I'll give it to Liz to take care of it. Just grammatical, that's all. Just
Okay.
a few things.
Grammatical.
Whatever, I'm missing words or whatever.
Under the hearing on 1540 Bedford Street, it says, WS stated the board should not discuss it as is not on the agenda. RC wanted to discuss it. Just wanted to clarify that I wanted to discuss it because I believe it was pertinent to the conversation.
Let me add that.
Motion to accept the minutes as changed. Motion made. Seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. So moved. Do we have any Form As?
We do not.
Zoning Board of Appeals agenda. Any comments?
Nope.
We're all set with that?
Yep. My end.
The review of as-built plan at 1540 Bedford Street.
All right, I think I gave you all in your packet the,
Got the letter and everything.
David's letter and all that now.
Do you have anything on that, Dave?
I did a while ago.
that's his letter on top, the August 31st letter.
No, all we had was some minor as-built conditions from the approved plan. One of them was the structure of the billboard was shown to be removed. One parking space was eliminated on the southerly side of the building and marked as no parking. And the walkway from the off-site employee parking to the site kind of ended in a parking space. Number 5, rather than the island is proposed. And we suggested that this space be eliminated and marked as no parking to allow unimpeded passage. And we do not consider them to be significant changes.
Do you want to say something on that, Sean?
Sure. Sean Riley, 500 Washington Street, representing the business, the applicant, Bud's Goods and Provisions Corp. We received and reviewed your engineer's review letter, and I did submit a letter of my own dated October 15th. As you mentioned, we couldn't talk about it at the prior meeting because it wasn't on the agenda, but just to address a few things really quickly, there were 3 items brought up. We did not actually eliminate any parking spaces. What we did, and my letter explains it, was the parking space that was being reserved for the owner of the property, we marked as no parking so that customers of the business wouldn't park in it, but the owner does park there. So we didn't actually lose a parking space, we just kind of blocked off one, reserved it for the owner. Norwood Engineering suggested that we convert one of our parking spaces, which was shown as number 5, and hash it out to be a no parking area just so there'd be a little bit more room for pedestrian traffic. We can do that because we have well over the requirement. I think we had to have 17 parking spaces, we had 21, and we had 15 additional spaces on the property next door. So we were gonna, upon your approval, accept that suggestion and convert space number 5, hash it out, or put in a no parking sign there just so it's open for pedestrian traffic. And then the other one was the question about, apparently on the original as-built plan that was approved, there was a notation on the abutting property under the billboard that there were 5 tool sheds previously there, and there was a note saying that all 3 would be removed. The two that were in the middle of the parking area were removed. The one that's underneath the sign is still there. It doesn't interfere with the parking, or the billboard or anything, it's just there. And I believe the building department responded, or commented on the as-built plan and said that we thought, basically, they thought it was going to be removed and it should be removed. I had a discussion with Marion in the building department today, saying I didn't understand why it had to go because it doesn't interfere. And she explained to me that previous to my client's applications, the building department was having discussions with the owner of that property about cleaning it up and everything, not my client. So they decided not to enforce anything because they knew that our client was going to go in there and clean it up, which we did. So basically the result of today's conversation was if we want to keep the remaining tool shed there, someone has to file for a building permit because it's over the minimum size. So I'm going to ask my client, if he wants to keep it, he's got to pay for the building permit. If not, it has to be removed.
So even though it's currently there, it would need a new building permit?
As it was explained to me, on a commercial property, you can put a tool shed on your commercial property as accessory building, as long as it doesn't exceed 120 square foot footprint, which is ironic because a residential, you can have a 200 square foot tool shed. Because it exceeds, in either case, if you exceed that 120 or 200 foot maximum, you have to get a building permit for the structure. So we're asking for the board's approval of the as-built plan as submitted. That would close this file, and then I will pursue the issue of the tool shed with the owner of the property and the owner of the business.
So the way we resolve is if it's to remain on premises, the Bud's owner or Mr. Gauss owner?
Either one. No, Mr. Butts, who owns, this is on the
That's right,
billboard
that's right.
property.
Okay. Will apply for a building permit. If they don't want to keep it, it'll disappear.
Yeah, if you want to give us a 60-day deadline, have someone make a decision, great.
So a motion be in order if that's what you wish to go along with what it exists, with the exception of the building, and that the building either is removed or it receives a building permit from the building department to let it stay there.
And striping the spot too?
On that, Dave? Striping
The
spot.
walkway? Okay.
So moved, providing that a decision is made on the shed in 60 days.
Motion made? Seconded? Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So moved, unanimous.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson.
Continue the site plan review hearing of 380 Brockton Avenue, continued. And
How you doing? Austin
Fine,
Chartier with McKinsey Engineering Group.
could we have your name once again?
What's up?
Your name once again?
Austin Chartier.
Go right ahead.
Okay, thanks for having me. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Brockton Ave Realty Trust. They filed an application for site plan approval. We were continued from, I believe, the September hearing with some questions, and we had received a peer review letter from Mr. Johnson of Norwood Engineering. We've since gone through the permitting process with conservation. There's an existing depression on the site that there was some questions about the jurisdiction of it. And so basically it was not a jurisdictional wetland, and Conservation Commission issued an order of conditions. Essentially 1 foot off the wetland line will be the limit of work. And we're proposing a retaining wall with a guardrail atop the wall, 2 feet off the wetland line. So that was a question at the last hearing. So we waited to basically get the order of conditions from Conservation and incorporate the peer review letter, and that was Basically, the revised documents addressed comments from the conservation as well as the peer review letter. Since that resubmission, we received a recommendation for approval, essentially noting that if any changes come up during the MassDOT access permit, basically curb cut permit and utility permits, because we're on Route 123, it's a MassDOT jurisdictional road, that we refile with the planning board. I can leave it at that and go from there if there's any questions, or I can present similar to what I did last time, so I can take any questions.
Dave?
No, as he summarized, we reviewed the revised changes, and they were all made consistent with our original comments from August 31st, 2021. And we've recommended that it's ready to be approved with the one caveat that they return to the planning board if there are any significant changes made as part of the DOT permitting, and any normal conditions of approval that the board has.
We have a couple of letters from the Department of Public Works memorandum. The Abington Sewer Department has reviewed your request for information regarding planning board hearing scheduled December 6, 2021, and has the following comments. This proposal, located at Assessors Map 15, Lot 138, must be approved by the Board of Sewer Commissioners at a regular scheduled meeting.
Okay.
And from the, no issues at all from the treasurers. Are there any comments from the public? Board members?
Are you requesting any special permits, waivers, anything?
Nope. It's
Straight site plan review this is?
correct, site plan review. Essentially, we are filing for a special permit from zoning because it is the highway, the HC district, highway commercial. So for the use, it's a special permit, and then for the site development, it was a site plan review. But we're not asking for any variances or waivers. It meets parking, it meets site coverage requirements.
The retaining wall off the back,
Yep.
what is the drop, or what will the height be of the retaining wall?
I think it's about 2 feet on average. It might, and a couple of spots, it might be about 3 feet. It's real. There was some questions about the backyards basically dropping right off into the wetlands, so it's essentially a buffer, creating more of a buffer to the wetlands. So, there's no creep into the wetlands for the residents.
My understanding is one of the things that convinced them to go along with this is that you're doing a 4-to-1 replication.
Yes, so that was basically a part of the order of conditions. I can get into that. So basically, back in 2005, a very similar project was approved. So we had to file basically a work not completed for that order to close it out. And then as part of the new filing, basically they're gonna do that replication work. And some of the grading for that was done on the property, so it's actually more of a restoration of the replication area. But yes, it is about 4-to-1 replacement, because there's actually no fill of any wetlands proposed. So it was more of a gesture, just a good faith gesture that they'll do the work that was originally approved as part of the development, because there was some earth disturbance done as part of the original order.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have the experience of my fellow board members. I just don't remember many projects where the physical structure has gone right up to the line this close, but, that's the Conservation Commission's job, not ours.
Right,
But
yeah.
I was surprised to see them go along with it.
Yeah, I think it had something to do with the original project had been approved, but nonetheless, it does meet their bylaws. There's no filling of any wetlands, and basically, 1 foot off the wetland line will be the limit of work for this project.
Out of curiosity, is there anything said to the future owners about this? Just because I'm just thinking, how many times I've gone on my yard just to toss something into the yard?
Yeah.
Or go out into the backyard, and if they do that here, they're tossing something into a wetland essentially.
Right.
Even if they pour, grease off into their back walkway, it's basically going into the,
Right.
is anything said to them to say, hey, guys, just remember, you are literally backed up to a wetland?
There is, as part of the stormwater report, there is an operation and maintenance plan, which
Okay.
calls for cleaning, I think it's maybe biannually, so every other year. But as part of the retaining wall with the guardrail on top of it, that's gonna really create a, kind of a buffer there from any use. One thing about that too, we did put in area drains. Essentially, by building that wall up, we're now creating a low point in the backyard with area drains. So that's actually, anything that gets, dumped out in the backyard is actually gonna technically end up in the stormwater system and not in the wetlands. So that was one of the changes that we did make as part of the revisions.
Yes, Bruce?
Just as a point of clarification, what's the commercial building to the right of this?
This is a pizza shop here to the right.
Okay, all right, that's what I thought it was.
Yeah,
Right now, like, they store big pieces of pipe and stuff like that on the site when they were putting the sewer in.
yeah.
Rocky Avenue.
Some of that actually might have been done on this site too as part of the, I forget what it was, maybe a sewer expansion, but,
Well, they put a new sewer line from the street, the offices on Summer Street,
Yeah.
up 18 onto 123.
Exactly.
Ending up at Walmart, so do you think, I guess the site would benefit from the renewal of the sewer line in that area?
yeah, so that, I think some of that was on this site and that will be basically removed. That was, when it was just a sitting, empty piece of land, they were doing that, kind of as a favor.
I go by there every day and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is where they're gonna build this thing. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
On the Cleveland pears, we will not allow Cleveland pears or any other type of ornamental pear in the town of Abington. So those trees would have to be replaced.
Okay,
And also, I might suggest that they might think of something other than the boxwood because of the disease that's coming into the boxwood.
Okay.
It might be fine for a year or so and then lose it,
okay.
but I'm sure that they can look into that.
Yeah, the applicant he's gonna be doing the landscaping work, that's kind of his
Right.
side thing, so I'm sure there's no issue with that, changing that.
Any other questions?
I can't see why I can't find it. Is there someplace indicated how you're lighting up the lot?
Are lighting plans that we did submit, but they are kind of done by hand, it's not,
What are they, wall panels?
yeah, they're wall mounts, basically, is what they're proposing. It's basically enough to illuminate the parking lot, but it'll be, down lighting it, nothing will be leaving the lot. It is just residential, so it's not, not lighting up a commercial space or anything like that.
Okay.
Anything further?
Guess if someone living there wants pizza, they have a short walk.
Yeah, that's a benefit of the location.
Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Make a motion, in the motion, the DOT situation and any other changes that's made by conservation or anything, and no Cleveland pears, and on the boxwood, they can put it in there, but I would suggest something different.
Second.
Second motion. Anything further? All those in favor say aye.
Oh.
Yes? Susan?
Sorry, I'm voting no, and I just wanted to explain why quickly.
Okay.
I don't think the style being proposed here is appropriate. These remind me much more of, I don't have a problem with multifamily housing close together, but these are very small, long, narrow units. I don't think they meet the architectural appearance that we require. I know the conservation has improved it, but I don't like the idea of building up to within 2 feet of the wetland. For those multiple reasons, I'm not going to be voting in favor of it. So.
Any other comments? On the motion, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? One opposed. Passes. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thanks, Dave.
Public hearing, site plan review, 714 Bedford Street. The Abington Planning Board will hold a public hearing at Abington Town Offices, 500 Glenowitz Way, Abington, Mass. On Monday, December 6, 2021, at 6:15 p.m. on the application of 714 Abington LLC for site plan approval pursuant to Abington zoning bylaws, Chapter 175-77. Property is owned by 714 Abington LLC, 714 Bedford Street, Abington, Mass. 02351. The property is located at 714 Bedford Street on Assessors Map 46, Lot 6. Plans can be viewed at the Town Clerk's office Monday through Thursday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:15 p.m., and Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 12:15 p.m. Wayne P. Smith, Chairman, advertising the Brockton Enterprise, November 22nd and 29th.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Scott Rolfe. I'm a senior project manager with OHI Engineering in Mansfield. I am here tonight with Jude Garvin. He's also a senior project management with our firm, and Alan Westman up in the back corner there. He's the architect that's involved with the building design. I'd like to just take a quick minute and thank Liz Shea for helping an old guy file in a town he's not accustomed to. Liz, you were very helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
We're here tonight for a site plan review. I'm representing 714 Abington LLC for property at 714 Bedford Street. This is I'll kind of start this talk the way I did with the Conservation Commission recently. This type of site that we have here is in my business is kind of a gift, because we don't often get to work on a property where the building stays in the same place, the pavement stays in the same place, the stormwater system stays in the same place. And we have an opportunity to take something that's somewhat run down and bring it up to code, make it better, and make it function properly. This parcel outlined in green is just a hair over 2 acres. You folks are all familiar with this building, I'm sure. And Alan, could I have that plan up here too, please? Thanks. A portion of the building is proposed to be raised, this front left-hand corner, and reconstructed on the same footprint. This is a rendering that we have of the site, the building rather. And it's proposed to be used as a dental office.
Can we have that just pushed around so the public can see it also?
There you go. Proposed use is a dental office, although the lower level on the larger portion of the building is open as a tenant space, but we do not know what type of tenant we would have there yet, but assuming something along the lines of some type of office use. If I remember my numbers right, the site drops in elevation. It's highest at the front left-hand corner out at Bedford Street, and the lowest point is back here in the back right-hand corner. I think we drop about 11 feet across the site. The building right now, as it exists, is tied into municipal utilities, water, sewer, and gas. The building would continue to be tied into those services. There would be no excavation necessary in Bedford Street to tie in any new services. The stormwater system, which if you have particular questions on that, I'll let Jude answer them, but if you, I know you're all familiar with looking at plans, these heavy dark lines here, here, and here, those are proposed newly constructed stormwater conveyances, catch basins to manholes, catch basins to manholes, and then there's a light line coming out here to an existing structure. That is an existing drain line that we would continue to use, and from this point here we have a discharge into a 4-bay, and then we have a recharge basin here. It's just a little bit bigger than what would exist there right now. but in order to bring the basin up to current stormwater standards, it had to be enlarged a little bit to take care of the storm requirements. We did have a very good hearing with the Conservation Commission. I think if we had our DEP file number at the time, they would have closed and voted at that hearing, but we will be going back before them on December 14th. We did receive comments from Norwood Engineering this morning. We have not obviously taken the time to address those comments, but we will. We understand that they recommend that you don't do anything as far as closing any public hearings until such time that we respond to their comments and gain approval from the Conservation Commission.
Bless.
We have 62 parking spaces proposed, 3 handicap. There was a comment in the Norwood, there was a comment by Norwood Engineering that we didn't label the van accessible handicap stall. All 3 handicap stalls are suitable for van use. We will, before we're done, we'll designate one to satisfy their comment. Would you folks have any questions?
Okay, Dave?
I'll summarize what I feel are the most pertinent comments. Many of them are just either housekeeping or looking at several options. As usual in most of these projects, stormwater design is the most significant thing that we look at. And most of these relate to the proposed basin in the rear of the property. The applicant is requested to do 2 things in terms of the basin. Number 1 is to clarify what the soil types are in the basin. There were test holes done which indicated that there were hydrologic soil group A, which are gas soils, but there were also references to D soils on the plan. We're seeking clarification of that and asking for some test holes in or closer to the actual basin to substantiate the numbers that they used in the calculations. Their numbers were based upon another town's rules and regulations we were not familiar with. In Abington, we typically use what's called the NOAA Atlas 2014 rainfall data. So we're asking them to use that criteria to document that the stormwater basin still functions as it's designed. And the third one was for conservation to take action, because oftentimes the changes made by conservation affect the site plan. The roof leaders was another thing related to the drainage. They showed roof leader collection, but it was unclear where the leaders were going with the roof runoff. Our suggestion is that they be piped directly to the infiltration basin, not run over the parking lot or through the sediment forebay. Since it's relatively clean water, it should be discharged directly into the basin and not over the paved areas to pick up pollutants. In terms of traffic, we believe that the sight lines are adequate in both directions for the proposed use. Obviously, the width grade and construction of Route 18 is acceptable and adequate to accommodate the vehicle count. Access permit and a traffic study may be required by Mass DOT due to the change in use and the anticipated number of vehicle trips. We're recommending the applicant, if they haven't already, contact the district office and determine what they're going to be requiring as part of the project. The parking proposed shows a 24-foot wide aisle between the parking spaces. Abington's zoning bylaw requires 25 foot, but because this is a redevelopment project and the pavement is staying essentially in the same location. 24 feet is a generally accepted width of an aisle in most towns, and our recommendation was that because this is a redevelopment project, that 24-foot aisle width is acceptable. Our final recommendation was the plans are generally complete and well prepared, but the planning board should not grant final approval until the stormwater design comments noted and the Conservation Commission has issued their order of conditions confirming the acceptability of the site plan.
Are there any questions from the public? A couple of letters that we have, one from what is this thing?
DPW.
This is DPW sewer. The Abington Sewer Department has referred your request for information regarding the planning board hearing scheduled for December 6, 2021, and has the following comments. 714 Bedford Street, this proposal located on Assessors Map 46, Lot 6, is subject to the system developments fee and permit fees that must be paid prior to building permit sign-off. And from the building department, a couple of questions could be asked, but is there a proposed plan missing? I see the existing and demolition plan, but not proposed plan.
We addressed that through email to Liz.
Yeah, so the
Okay.
answers are on that second
Yeah.
page.
And then the other question was, are the applicants proposing to demo the entire building and still maintain a 17.4 square foot? And I'll answer them here, but I've given you the opportunity. And thank you for your advance of the questions that were raised. Response A, there are no plans missing. The proposed features of the site reconstructions are depicted on a combination of sheets C5-1 and layout of utility plan C6.1, grading, draining, drainage, and paving plan. We often find that if all improvements are shown on a single drawing, the legibility somewhat diminishes. You would have been better off answering this
I do the
than
same
me.
thing.
Response to B, a little under 24% of the building is proposed to be raised and reconstructed. The building setback distance are not proposed to change. Please let me know if you have anything else to add.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board? Yes, Rick.
Just following it up, so it's if you're looking at the building from across the street, there's a little section to the left that's, I think, single story. That's the section that's going to be coming down.
Yes, and rebuilt in the same,
Okay.
on the same footprint.
Is it just because of the condition of the building, or doing different size with it, or?
I could let the architect weigh in on that. He knows a lot more about that structure than I do, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Alan?
Up here would be great.
I find I lose credibility if I talk about things that I'm not supposed to, so.
Alan Westman, KSID Architecture to Design. The building that you're referring to, that...
Could you use the microphone too, please? Not a microphone, but...
The fans at
The
home want to
recorder.
hear everything.
Yeah. Alan Westman, KSID. We're the architects of record for the project. The portion of the building that you're referring to is being removed because of the structural, or the lack of structural integrity of the building. The effort to bring that building up to code is just really not viable. We reviewed that with our structural engineer, mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers, architect, contractor, code review consultant.
But the larger building's good to go, in terms of structural safety?
Yeah, it's going to be, so the plan, no pun intended, is to take that portion of the building down. There's you can call it a basement, it's not really code compliant, so that's all coming out. And then there'll be structural fill that's brought in, and it'll be a single slab on grade story. All new construction for that, tied to the existing, at the same grade, floor elevation as the existing building.
Okay. And so it all becomes, I think right now it was two separate businesses for the most part, wasn't it, over the years? There was.
My understanding was that the store had rented that to a salon. I don't know where the overlap was.
But at times it was two different businesses, right?
It may have been.
There was a salon
Yeah.
there, yeah, hairdresser.
So this basically will just tie it all into one big,
It'll be, yeah,
Office.
so, right, so now it'll all be, the first floor will all be at the same elevation right now. And that piece right now is being built as a shell, and the applicants, the owners of the property and the practice who are here with us today also are determining whether they use that as part of their practice or they use that for an affiliated property or business associated with their practice.
okay. I guess that was my next question, is this is all going to be dentistry? This isn't going to be dentist and something, and, and physical therapy and other,
It's going to be dentist, and then that portion is going to be something, but it's going to be of like practice.
okay. Okay. By the way, I like the exterior design. I mean, this is what I would like to see more of in the community as we're building these buildings out, is things that look good, things that look nice and functional and will add value to the street. So, thank you.
Fortunately, it's not hard to make that building.
Okay.
Thank you.
A couple other questions about the land around it. So there is currently a bit of a retaining swale, ditch, whatever it is, out back.
Yes, it's all grown in right now. It had been neglected for a long time.
Is it grown in with trees or just kind of brush?
That's brushy stuff.
Brush, okay.
Yeah.
So there's something there, but this is just going to make it bigger, more formal, and,
The vegetation has to be removed. The basin has to be reshaped, given some structure. There'll be a little bit of a modification to the forebay, and the outlet control structures will be new.
how much of the water from the site runs back? All of it, or just some of it? Is there a crest where some of it goes to the front, some goes to the
I'll
back?
let Jude talk to that, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Jude Garvin from OHI. Currently, right now, this portion of the property drains down through this avenue where the proposed handicap stalls are, and it flows out onto Bedford Street. The proposal is to take it from the curb cut and push it back towards a catch basin to collect the water all in the front here that runs down from the street and from the parking area that we're rehabilitating. And then that's going to get piped through a series of drain manholes out to the back retention basin.
Okay, so I'll end up eventually out to the back retention basin?
Correct.
Okay.
When we went out there, our thought was to have some underground infiltration, some out front and some in the back. So we did a series of test pits along the perimeter and noticed this severely overgrown retention basin. We didn't know it was there at the beginning. We saw that the detention basin was there, so we went in and redid the topo and did a test pit in close proximity to it. The reason we didn't do any testing within the basin itself is because we didn't want to tear up the bottom of the basin at this point and maybe wait for construction to do a confirmatory test. But what we did find, and I'll tie this into the hydraulic soil groups also, is this whole area is mapped as a hydraulic soil group D. But when we did the test pits, we found nothing but sand and gravel, which indicates a soil group of an A. So when we did our drainage calculations, we did the existing pavement in the building and stuff, all as soil groups A, and we were consistent throughout based on the soils that we actually found out there. We didn't feel that we should use a D soil with a slower infiltration rate, which changes the curb numbers even when you have existing facilities on site. So that's the reason we use the A soil. We were going to put an infiltration basin in the front here, but we looked at the elevations and we were able to get from the existing catch basin, if we made that a manhole, we were able to get all that water to go out back. So there'd be one structure, there wouldn't be any underground recharge per se. It's all going to be done out back by widening this existing detention basin, making the forebay a little bit bigger to handle the water quality and the groundwater quality, and adding a control structure to allow the water to go out as Mass DEP, the handbook states. So those are the reasons why it all came to one basin out back. We were gonna spread it out, but it just didn't make sense looking at building stuff under the pavement. The same thing kind of goes with the gutters. A lot of this roof, it's like an A-frame roof if you look at the plan. So a lot of this water sheds off in this direction, which is a low point along here. And at some point, when this basin was put in, when this parking was added some time ago, they put an infiltration trench in here, along the side here. So what happens is the roof, all that roof sheds off down into these gutters, and then it spills into this low point and gets handled in an infiltration trench. These gutters out front are just supposed to spill out onto the ground. And normally, if we had a basin out here, we would just pipe them directly to the underground basin because it's clean water, so you don't have to handle water quality and groundwater recharge. But because we're bringing it all the way over to here, and a lot of it couldn't get there gravity-wise, we oversized the basin to infiltrate the groundwater quality, and we oversized the forebay to handle that amount of water. Even though it's clean coming off the roof, it is going to get onto the pavement, it is going to mix with the other contaminants. Usually you want them separated, but in this case, it just made sense to put it all in the low point of the site and kind of oversize the basins.
Do you need 62 spaces? Like, is this going to be that busy of a dental office where we're going to need 62 spaces? I don't even know how many dentists and chairs will be on the property. I'm just, if you kind of went by the calculation that, that's in there, I understand that, but I mean.
We looked at the floor space and the reworking from the architect, and we looked at all that, and then we produced the square footage,
Yeah.
and then we just applied that square footage to the documentation. I do know now that the proposed owner of this does have some overflow parking over here now because their business is kitty corner across the street. So there is quite a significant amount of traffic load, so we felt the 62 spaces were right in line with what we need.
Okay.
We also have the vagueness of not knowing who the other tenant's going to be.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's always better to be prepared.
That's all for now. Thank you.
It's a nice-looking building. I can make that observation. Compliment to the architect. We're supposed to be objective here, but it is a nice-looking building.
Anything else from the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
maybe to speak early, but I'm actually thrilled about this project. I'm happy you guys are doing it. I hope it goes both from the fire department standpoint for a couple of reasons. One, it's a vacant building, which we have been concerned about, and I'd like to see this back into being occupied and maintained. Two, you're looking to remove the most dangerous portion of this building.
Mike?
Yeah,
please.
Sorry.
For those at home. Sorry about that, too.
You should know the rules better than me.
I should. I tried to get it, I apologize. John Audio, Fire Chief. I just want to say the fire department supports this project for a couple of reasons. One, to maintain a currently vacant, very large building. And it'll be good to maintain that for a number of reasons. Number two, they're removing the most dangerous portion of this building, which is that residential structure to the left. I don't believe that portion of this building is sprinkled. The rest of the building is, and where the firefighters know that should we get an incident in this building, that delineation between the old residential portion, which was the hair salon or whatever insurance company, in the modern furniture, former furniture company, that's a dangerous part if we ever get a fire in there, because that fire travel is going to go through there. I'm thrilled to hear that that's going to be planned to be removed. One last note is just for the architects to know the history of the building. We did have a freeze a couple years ago with portions of the existing sprinkler system. So when you go to remodel this, you're going to really want to go through that quick fine-tooth comb. It has been repaired, however. It was an unoccupied building. It was done fairly quickly by a licensed contractor, but you're going to want to go through that with a fine-tooth comb.
Our fire protection engineers
Okay.
noted the same thing.
Okay. Excellent. Good. Good. Thank you.
Anything further? Would you like to continue this to our January meeting?
Yes, I would.
Okay. And
January 10th.
January 10th. So we get a motion to continue the hearing to January 10th. Motion made.
Second.
Second, and all those in favor?
Aye.
And if you could just give us a letter on it.
Can I email
Just,
it to you?
yes, I was going to say, just shoot me an email tomorrow saying you agree to continue it.
Thank you very much.
And then, Dave, when would you need those plans?
we have to get it out on Thursday.
Yeah.
Are you the gentleman from Norwood?
Yep.
I'll tell you, in this day and age, it's refreshing to get peer review comments that quick in time for a hearing, because it doesn't usually happen.
Well, it was this morning, but at least it.
That's all right.
So, if you could get me Monday or Tuesday before the meeting.
Sure.
Because I have to
January
get to
10th.
Liz,
Yep.
for Thursday or Friday to go to.
Thank you. I do have something I could give you now in regard to the traffic. We did have a traffic engineer look at the site and generate some numbers, what he thought the site would generate.
Have you touched base with?
Well, as you well know, we cannot approach Mass DOT until we have an approved project in hand. They will not hear us. You're wasting their time until we get it approved.
Sometimes they do this.
Well, they've been, they're so understaffed, or, I'm gonna say there's just not much for staff there anymore. Matter of fact, I'm not even sure the office is open to the public, or you're still doing it.
Probably operating from home.
Yeah, yeah, most of the state agencies are like that still. Folks, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Abington Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Monday, December 6, 2021, at Abington Town Hall, 500 Glenowitz Way, at 6:30 p.m. on the definitive subdivision plan application entitled Definitive Subdivision Plan for Roslyn Street, prepared for Abington Investment LLC by Strong Point Engineering Group, 340 Manley Street, Unit 2, West Bridgewater, Mass. 02379. The plan is dated November 12, 2021. The property is owned by Abington Investment LLC, 245 Central Street, Abington, Mass. 02351. The property is located on Assessor's Map 61, Lot 7. The hearing will be held at Abington Town Hall, 500 Glenowitz Way. Plans may be viewed at the office of the Town Clerk at the Abington Town Hall, Monday through Thursday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 12:15 p.m. Wayne P. Smith, Chairman, advertised in the Brockton Enterprise on November 22nd and November 29th.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Attorney John Bradley, 500 Washington Street in Abington Center, here representing Abington Investments LLC, the owner of the property, formerly known as 286 Spruce Street. Just as way of background, I think the board is very familiar with this property. This is the same property that this board approved a 7-unit townhouse condominium project on a number of months ago. From that approved site plan, we went to the zoning board for the special permit for the multifamily use. There was discussion about the number of units, the density, and concerns that were voiced by some of the neighbors. The zoning board eventually did not approve the special permit. We have appealed that denial through the courts. It's pending. We expect it to take a little while to go through the courts. In the meantime, my clients and I have been looking at other options, things that were discussed at those prior hearings, and the other option is, one of the options is submitted to you tonight, which is the proposed upgrading of the private way known as Roslyn Street and the creation of the 2 house lots on Roslyn Street. Our intention here was to address the density issue, the number of units. So instead of 7 units out there, there would be 2 single-family homes. Each of the lots that are proposed more than conform to the zoning laws, a minimum of 100 feet of frontage and 20,000 square feet, and both lots exceed those minimums. We are proposing a private roadway here because we are trying to minimize the effect to our neighbors. It was our intention in our original site plan with the condominium not to do any construction on Roslyn Street. We were using that, wanted to leave that as a buffer. And with a condominium, as you know, it's all privately owned, so you can have a driveway. You don't need a road. You can have a driveway to a condominium. So that site plan included a driveway that was entirely on our property, and all the buildings were on our property. In order to create a lot, you have to create a road, a private road or a public road. And as we're all aware, there is a paper street, Rawson Street, that's been there since the beginning of time. And anyone who owns land on the side of Rawson Street has a right to develop it to a sufficient extent to allow for building permits to be issued for homes or condominiums or whatever is going to be out there. We, as I said, are proposing the 2 single-family homes. There would also be a single-family home up on the street near where the original house was. That is not part of this subdivision. That's its own standalone lot. We are proposing the 22-foot wide paved roadway, which is the minimum typically required and requested by the fire department. We have submitted a list of waivers that try to make this as minimal impact and basically make it look as much as a driveway as possible. And what I mean by that is a typical roadway would require a sidewalk on each side of the road and granite curbing throughout the length of the road on both sides of the road. And we've asked that the sidewalks be waived because we only have 2 houses here. That there's no need for granite curbing. There isn't any granite curbing in the Muster Field that I can recall. So this would kind of fit into the nature of and the style of the neighborhood. We have Cape Cod berm on the left side as you drive in, and it's designed by Strong Point Engineering. So that any water that hits the private road would shed towards our house lots, across the pavement, and into our, what they call the country drain system, a swale along the side of the road, be absorbed along the side of the road in the swale that has been designed by Strong Point. And forgive me, I didn't introduce Stephanie Hoban is an engineer with Strong Point Engineering, and she'll be here to answer any questions that are above my pay grade. We are also, both of these houses will be on septic, so there's no need for any sewer pipe coming down the road. There'd be a single 2-inch water line coming off the street that has been approved already by the Water Commission. The Water Commission already approved 7 connections, so they obviously have approved the 2 that we're now seeking. And we'll clarify on our updated final plan that it is 1 2-inch line that comes off of Spruce Street, and then each of the houses would attach to that 2-inch line. The Water Board has also asked us, the superintendent happened to be out in the hall right before here, that the water line be on the edge or off of the paved area, just for future maintenance if anything had to be done. The plan also shows 2 single gas services coming off of Spruce Street, 1 to serve each house. We're designing it that way, but there is a possibility that the houses might be constructed with propane instead of natural gas. That might be a decision by the eventual buyer, but we wanted to plan for that and show that on our plans. And in doing so, we hope to demonstrate to the neighbors who are concerned with the number of units that by bringing a 2-inch line and bringing in 2 separate gas connections, that's all that's going out there is the 2 houses. This isn't a backhanded way for us to get utilities out back and then we're going to come in 6 months from now with something different and bigger. The question has come up, what does it mean if we approve this? What are you going to do with the 7 units that's pending in the court? In all honesty, it's a race to the finish. If this does get approved, then we would pursue the 2 houses and we would dismiss, or basically, yeah, we would dismiss the appeal at the court. So we would abandon the 7-unit condominium. Of course, if this doesn't get approved, we would pursue those rights that have been preserved with the court system. It's a relatively straightforward design. Again, we tried to simplify it as much as possible. I know Norwood Engineering has reviewed it, and perhaps, Mr. Chairman, it's better if I pass the baton to your engineer and let him kind of review it, and if there's any follow-ups that you'd like us, myself or the engineer or the developer to do, we'd be more than happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
Yep. In terms of the utilities to this site, Sean has pretty summarized some of my comments. The plans originally called for 2 2-inch lines, and he's clarified that with the water department, that it is to be 1 2-inch line to provide service to both developments. One question that we had, we can be answered right now with the fire department, is whether or not they want any kind of hydrant or fire protection at the end of the private way.
I believe The owner came and met with myself and my fire prevention staff a couple of weeks ago. I believe there is a hydrant well within the 500 feet of this. I don't think it's on here, but I think it was within a couple hundred feet from the private road going down, so that the houses do meet within that.
Okay.
I think it's within 500 or 600 feet.
About 100 feet down the street.
Very good, thank you. Stormwater. They're proposing a country drainage, which is a low-impact development technique that's DEP. It pushes for improving runoff quality and quantity and eliminating the need for pipe and drainage, manhole and catch basin drainage. We do have support for that approach. We do have some questions on the modeling that they used for determining what this swale would be able to handle in the 100-year storm event. We've requested that the applicant's engineer meet with us to discuss those calculations, and we had a concern about overflow of the swale into the roadway based upon the grading that was shown. That needs to be evaluated to address the potential for runoff. As far as layout and construction, the applicant has submitted a detailed request for waivers, which I amended to our review. One of the items that should be included as a result of these waivers as a private way is there should be a note on the plan indicating that this is a private way and it is to be maintained by the owners of the private way, and a document should be made part of any conveyance of these lots outlining the shared responsibilities for the people that purchase on this way. They've proposed a hammerhead or T turnaround at the end of the improved way, which uses the driveway for lot 1 as part of that turnaround. If that's going to be approved, they should be providing an easement in that driveway so that over time, if it gets used for turning around, the owner of that lot can't prevent that portion of the driveway from being used for the turnaround. The waivers will be up to the planning board to determine what they want to waive as far as the subdivision control rules and regulations. I will say that what they're requesting are consistent with, are acceptable for a two-lot subdivision, and they are consistent with at least one other two-lot subdivision that was done in town. The waivers are consistent with what the board previously approved. Again, these plans are complete and well prepared, and the board can consider approval of the subdivision subject to the granting of the waivers that have been requested.
Are there any comments from the public? Yes, sir. You come up to the microphone and give your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Kevin Keating. I'm at 272 Spruce Street. I am the largest abutter to Rosalind Street. I have a couple questions about the Rosalind Street section of this. One, currently there is no owner on Rosalind Street. The town doesn't own it, I don't own it, and Mr. LaPointe does not own it. But I have the right to 17 feet of it. He has the right to 17 feet of it until something else happens with the property. So number one, this Rosalind Street was approved one previous time already. What I ask is if this gets approved, that my name goes on the private way, that I have use of that private way. Because right now, I have 17 feet of that private way, and he has 17 feet. So if you're gonna take that 17 feet away from me, town doesn't own it. I don't know if there's a bylaw or something that lets the town give that property away, but I would like my name to be on Roslyn Street, that I can exclusively use that, should I so desire. That's number one. Number two, Roslyn Street is 34 feet wide. Again, I have 17 feet, Mr. LaPointe has 17 feet. And they're proposing a 22-foot wide road on there. Where is that going to be? On my side of the property, does the 22-foot road start? Or on his property that the 22-foot section is for the road? Does anybody have the answer to that question?
We'll give you an answer.
Okay, you'll get me an answer to that. Again, this road was approved one other time for one single-family house to go down to Roslyn Way. It required a much more intensive stormwater drain system than is required with this present plan. So I would hope that, you know, the planning board would look into the stormwater drain system a little bit more intensively, because again, when you approved this before, it required much more for that stormwater drain system. So those were my three questions. Again, I'd like my name on that private way, that I have use of it. And again, the other thing is, which I guess Sean's gonna answer now, where that 22-foot is gonna start from on the private way. Hopefully from his side back towards my side. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Keating.
Again, Sean Riley and Stephanie, if I misspeak, please let me know. Mr. Keating, it's an oddity in state law. We can't really put your name on it, and you're right, there is no, if you look at the registry of deeds, there's not a deed for Roslyn Street. There is a statute, however, that says when a road is put on a plan, that the owners of the land on each side of the road own to the fee. That's why you were talking about 17 feet, which is half of the 34. So they own to the center, but the entire roadway is subject to the rights of those lot owners to use the entire roadway. So if we weren't doing anything, you would have a right to come in here and ask to put a road, you know, to pave, to put utilities down Roslyn Street and do with it what you may. And you can use the whole 34 feet. LaPointe is doing that, but we're only paving 22 feet, because again, we want to minimize the amount of pavement. I believe on the, what's called the left side, the Keating side, it's, the edge of pavement is like 5 feet off. It's 5 to 7 feet off on each side. 34 total, 22 of pavement. Cape Cod berm along the left. It's at least 5, I know that. So if they approve this plan, the subdivision plan, we don't become the owners of Roslyn Street, nor do you. It's, the statute still sits there. We have the right to develop it.
But my name was on the last Roslyn Street.
I'm not familiar with whatever.
Oh, you put it on.
Is it the one that, when, this had to be
It was a single-family lot
20 years ago?
when Jim April owned the house up front.
Yeah.
You got it approved through the planning board, but my name was on there that I had use of Roslyn Street.
I honestly don't recall. I don't say you're lying. I just don't recall this.
It's fine.
I'm not, yeah, it was obviously not developed. If I recall, I think there was going to be a cul-de-sac at one point, and that was a problem. That was one of the iterations of plan that I had seen back then, so I'm not sure what was eventually approved. For whatever reason, that was never developed. So really, it's really not part of this discussion.
Stormwater drain system.
Very likely.
No, that's the reason.
Okay. Not part of the discussion tonight. I mean, the history is always relevant, but.
When it comes to these sort of things, where is the property line?
The property line is still, the street is on the plan, 34 foot wide. So the property line is along the street.
I mean, on that drawing, where's the property line?
On this plan? Right here, we measure the frontage along the edge of Roslyn Street, the 34 foot layout, not the 22 foot pavement, but the layout. So this is a 101-foot wide lot. This one is, I did the math earlier, more than 100 anyhow. 140 something, 145 feet wide.
But I mean, that's not a no man's land of 34 feet wide. So I mean, there's title that goes halfway in between that strip. Is that where?
Yeah, if you think of it in its, if you own a field, one owner of the field, and I'm gonna build a subdivision, obviously I have to draw the street out, and I draw the lots out. And back in the day, you would then sell lot 1, 2, 3, and 4, and when I was done, great, and the town would accept the road, and when the town accepted the road, then it became a public road. But if the town didn't accept the road, it still remains private, which was originally owned by the former farm owner, let's call it, right? But he's gone, he sold all the lots and it was gone, so the statute says, unless that farmer, that landowner, put language in his deed in which he specifically reserved the ownership of the roadway, then the statute says the lot owners along the road each own halfway to the center line, or to the center line, halfway of the road, in front of their lot, subject to the rights of all lot owners to develop, to use it, to bring utilities, to put down pavement, whatever it is they'd like to use.
So is it right to say easement, right of way? What is the proper term to refer to it, the paper street?
It's really a paper street.
Paper street?
Or it's more inclined, it would be better described as a right-of-way than as an easement. The right-of-way is pretty much all-encompassing. Like I said, the statute allows them to use it for access, to use it for utilities, whatever amount.
All right, so it's 34 feet wide, the the proposed actual paved surface is 22 feet wide. Is that centered in the middle, or is it?
It is centered, so 34 minus 22 is 12.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure.
Roughly 6 feet on each side.
So he owns technically 2 feet. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's right down the middle.
So I mean, is there a reason why he wouldn't have access to it?
Mr. Keating?
Yeah.
He has the right to go up and down it.
Okay.
If he wanted to extend it in the future, he has the right to do that, but he'd have to come to you, of course, to do any sort of upgrades to it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Brianna O'Connor, my husband Tim. We live at 278 Spruce Street. Same issue. We own half rights to 17 feet. What if I wanted to build on that?
You could,
But he's going to build a road.
please?
He's going to build the road. So come down the road. Why do I have to give up my rights to that half?
We've had it before the board in a different respect. We've had people that want to build, want to subdivide lots on their side of the
Right.
street, and the people on the other side of the street don't want to do that, don't
Right.
want to pay for the road. If you want to have a road go by your lots so you can have access to it, then you have to pay for it, even though the people on the other side of the road get the benefit of the road.
Right, so we have rights to the middle, the 17 feet,
Yes.
just like Mr. Keating does. So as of right now, my husband and I take care of that area, up until Mr. Keating's area where he takes care of it or whatnot. But we were told, so we went through a zoning board, planning board for an addition on our house, and we were informed that we didn't think that anybody could build anything on that road. Right?
Yeah, it's.
You helped
yes,
us.
Right, I was in the room at the
Right.
time. You can't build a structure on a road.
So what if I wanted to build a street there?
You could build a street, but you can't build a structure, because everyone who owns along the road has a right
Right.
to use it as a road. So if you went to the building department and said, I want to expand my house and go 10 feet
Right.
into, anytime you go over the line onto that paper street, they'd say, oh, you can't
And
do
is there a
that.
reason why we can't move the road more on his side of the easement, or map, paper road, whatever you want to call it? Move it over slight so we still have that 17 feet of our ownership of that paper road?
You, the first of all, like you said, you
Nobody
it's
owns
kind
it,
of,
right?
yeah, exactly, that's the problem, it's a misnomer.
But why does Mr. Lapointe, or whoever's building the street there, get to do that if maybe in 10 years, I wanted to do that?
If I could add an example, we've had people that have built roads like this, or roads like this
Yeah.
exist. Let's say you decide, I'm gonna subdivide my property, put 2 more houses on it. There's a good chance that we're going to require you to build a full-size road.
Right.
Which means that whatever work they did, it'd be your responsibility to build a brand-new road going up there, do the cul-de-sac, whatever is needed. But it's still, you can't build it within the road. You know, there's nothing can be built within the road because it has to be.
So I guess my real concern is, can't we move the road over to more on his 17 feet than our 17 feet?
So you basically, so you can keep that green space?
Yes.
More of the
Yep.
green space?
I'd have to look at the engineering. Part of it, the thing is, we have the swale along the road. What, we've designed it so any water that hits it flows away
Right.
from you. So we have this open country swale, grass ditch,
Yeah.
small ditch that.
Where the house used to, April's house used to be.
Yeah, it goes along the far side of the
Right.
road. I don't know if we can move it much more because, honestly, we intentionally did some of the design in case Mr. Keating, or in this case, the O'Connors, wanted to extend the road in the future. I don't know what Mr. Keating's plans are. He didn't want us to be building much out there, but if he in the future sells his property and decides he's gonna extend the road, you own, what, 2 or 3 acres or something out there?
I own enough for 7 lots.
Okay, but that's subject to the 600-foot restrictions. He could probably loop a road around out his driveway sometime in the future. If he was to do that, I'm not holding this board to anything, but at that point, he might be required to upgrade the street to put in a sidewalk now. So we left
Right.
5 feet to the left, so we're not blocking that from happening, but we're not also paying for it either, right? So that's why we kind of went right down the middle of the road.
So is there a way that if you guys didn't put that right down the middle, we could get trees or something to have that privacy from that road, from that driveway?
You have been more than cooperative throughout this process, and I think Mr. Lapointe, who's sitting right there, will be more than willing to talk to you about anything there is that we can make. As you know, we didn't want to do this.
Right.
Okay, we wanted to move it over, and we had it all landscaped, and we
Right.
talked about
Yeah.
this. So if there's something that we can do, and whether it doesn't even have to be from the board. Maybe after everything's in, and you look at it and you see, I'd like a tree right here, or 3. I'll commit to you right now. Mr. Lapointe will commit to you right now. Thumbs up, it's a committal. Yes, we would do that for you.
And the other thing that would happen is if Mr. Lapointe moved the road over, and then at some time Mr. Keating wanted to put some houses in down there, he would not necessarily be able to use the property.
Because we own the front half.
So you might have a road going like this and taking which isn't very practical.
Right. Okay, thank you.
The comments that Mr. Johnson and Norwood Engineer had in their plan, the suggestions about having the turning easement on the last driveway, we have no problem with that. We actually had discussed that prior to Dave bringing it up. We actually intentionally extended the pavement beyond the driveway so there was room for a turnaround, whether it's a fire truck or a UPS truck. It's also an area for snow storage. It's also an area where kids can play basketball if they wanted to, or just the O'Connor kids can ride their bikes down there. There's a waiver request for granite curbing, as I mentioned earlier. There's a comment in there about having granite at the radiuses out at Spruce Street. We won't fight it, but we also question whether it's really necessary. There is no granite curbing on all of Spruce Street, so it doesn't connect to anything. I don't know if that would make it look strange, or if the board would prefer it.
It defines the roadway for
Yep.
one thing, and what ends up happening so often is people start taking shortcuts across someone else's lawn.
And that's fine. I just wanted to note that. And finally, the waiver of the street trees is because it's a 2-lot subdivision, but David suggested that we should be required to not waive the street tree requirement. What I would suggest, and I think the board has had this type of discussion, is if we could waive the street tree regulation as it's written, but the board, if they were to approve this plan, would also, we would agree to a condition where we'd be required to plant at least 2 trees in each front yard. That way we can kind of plant them in a more of a natural landscape instead of a row, you know, in front of these two houses. We're not against putting trees up. Most of this land was already clear cut before we bought it, but we'd like to put some trees in the front yard. It's just, I don't know that we want to put them up in a line of toy soldiers. That's all.
Any other questions from the public? Board members?
I would like to hear from the fire chief if he's okay with the road dimensions and the road shape layout.
Again, we looked at this, they approached us, we looked at it. As much as I'd love to see a cul-de-sac at the end of every road around town, at the same point, to be fair, we don't have these everywhere in town. And there's a number of one or two house lots that are kind of set back that kind of have, they just end. This at least there's a little bit more room that we could turn around. We actually have entire streets that are dead-end streets that we just have to back the entire apparatus out. So I don't think he's proposing anything that we don't already have in town. And this actually is a little bit wider, so it's only 2 residential homes. It's not a larger structure that's going to have more people there. So we're fairly comfortable with it.
Do we need to have any prohibitions against parking along the street or the roadway, considering you'll have a drainage ditch on one side and probably not much room in the other?
That's probably going to be a concern for any vehicles, not just emergency vehicles. Like Mr. Riley said, even UPS trucks. That's something I didn't really consider, but they're everywhere. The whole fleet of different delivery vehicles, they are starting to block us as well. So, yeah, if the swale's there, you can't park on that side, obviously. So that may be something it's worth considering.
Just one on the design note relative with the chief's comments were, if you notice on our plans, that second house is intentionally set back further than the first house, so the driveway's longer, with the thought being that the people who live in that house will park their cars up close to the house, which would leave the end of the driveway open pretty much almost all of the time, so there'd be no problems doing a 3-point turn. I would not support and would oppose a parking ban on this private road. We don't do that on any other street. I mean, it can happen, you know, if someone has a Super Bowl party or a Monday night football game, you know, there might be people parking out there. But it's only 2 houses, and we want to keep it as minimal as possible with not having to widen the street, the pavement, in order to allow room for parking like that.
If I remember correctly from the last project, the water sheets from, I'm trying to think, the west-northwest corner towards the east-southeast corner. Is that accurate? Okay. The gray house that's on this plan, that's existing, correct? Okay. So having the swale here isn't going to, I guess this is a question for David. Having the swale is not going to cause any flooding issues for that property owner?
This one here?
Go north, go up.
This one?
Up. Yeah, that one.
Way up there?
Yeah, so the swale is going to be, not make things worse?
The swale runs like this.
Yep,
And this property here is also owned by Mr. McLean.
correct.
So what's happening is this road is cross-sloped, so water that falls here goes in this direction. You can see the contours.
Yep,
It's discharged into the swale, grass swale. There are pipes underneath each driveway. Water goes under the driveway, continues in the swale, goes under the driveway, continues in the swale. 2 of our comments were to require roof infiltration systems, roof drains, dry wells, whatever you want to call them, on each lot to minimize the amount of water coming into the swale, and also deal with recharge of runoff. And we also suggested that a structure be placed here at the bottom of the swale, so in large, intense storm events, there's a connection to the groundwater, so that you don't have ponding, or it allows water to continually drain into the ground over a period of time. So that, and topographically, maybe you can read the contours. It's a 139. Yep. 139 is here, and this is where 139.
None of the runoff from the street should exit the swale. The way it's graded, yes, this existing lot will still continue to drain towards the low point over here, but nothing from the swale should be able to get over that way.
Okay. And David, you're obviously okay with the drainage as it's presented? Okay.
We have a couple of letters. One is from the Sewer Department, has reviewed your request for information regarding planning board hearing scheduled December 6, 2021, and has the following comments. Roslyn Street, this proposal located on Assessors Map 61, Lot 7, must be approved by the Board of Sewer Commissioners at a regular scheduled meeting, but as they've expressed that they're going to have a septic system. The other one is from the Joint Waterworks. The Abington Rockland Joint Waterworks has reviewed the plans of Roslyn Street and approves of a 2-inch type K copper line to feed 2 proposed single-family homes. The water for this project was originally approved on our March 16, 2021 meeting for 7 housing units. Any other comments from the public? For the board?
I have just one, and I think it's just a technical question. The culverts that are running underneath the driveway, and they're 12-inch pipes, they come out to they come over 3 foot of riprap, and they're just open to the daylight? No, anything covering them would stop? I mean, I guess that's all there is, just a wide open pipe?
Yes.
And
There's riprap on either side. And there is a note with dimensions, maybe you know it off there. So 3 feet, 3 feet of riprap outside each end of the pipe to limit scouring, erosion. There's 3 feet coming out.
And it's the property owner's responsibility to keep it maintained and clear?
And plow the street.
Sorry?
You have to plow the street.
If nothing further, a motion to close the hearing? Motion made.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Someone want to make a motion? If you want me to paraphrase it for you with the information on Norwood Engineering's letter of December 1st, 2021, that sidewalk waiver and with the Cape Cod berm, 22-foot roadway, and what they talked about, it's a private road, and also the easement, which is all in the letter, on the second house lot. Did I cover it? Pretty much?
I think if you read the waivers that they've requested, I think you can vote to grant the waivers. If you're going to grant all of the waivers, you can vote to grant the waivers as noted on the plan, the letter from Strongbow Engineering dated November 12th. We've also recommended that these waivers be included on the subdivision plan that gets recorded at the registry of deeds. And that's in our letter as well.
But if I may, the approval of those 9 waivers would also include, I believe, 3 conditions. One, that granite curbing be required at the radiuses. 2, that one of the waivers was to waive street trees. So the 2 would be to require that 2 trees that conform to the area be placed in the front yard of each of the lots. And 3 is what? Well, we'll satisfy the comments in the letter from Norwood Engineering. What was the 3rd? Oh, maybe that was it.
So maybe actually you can vote to grant the waivers first, and then vote to approve the plan subject to
Correct.
this letter. Okay. Just so it's less confusing for me.
So
I'm
the-
old now.
So the motion on the waivers would be first. Someone want to make that motion?
With the exceptions, is that part of the 2 trees on each
Right.
lot?
So that's
2 trees in each lot, the,
the granite curbing
Right.
at the radius.
I'll make that motion.
and the Cape Cod berm, the rest of it, and the 22-foot roadway. Motion made.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? On the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Now on the subdivision,
Based on.
Based on the letter of Norwood Engineering.
Norwood Engineering's letter, I'll make that motion.
Seconded. Any further discussion?
I'm just, I want to make sure there's no conflict in what the letter says and what you're, so the waivers were granted. Dave's letter had requested that the street tree not be granted, we could just approve that, that's fine. You put in the condition about the street trees, so that's good. Dave's letter requires us, or asks us to put in the easement for the turnaround, that's fine. So
Curbing out front.
And a private
Curbing out
road.
front was his letter, so,
And the private road.
and the private road sign, yeah, okay. Just want to make sure we're not missing anything, that we're all on the same page.
And it's registered at the Registry of Deeds, obviously, it's a private road.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Registry of Deeds, it's a private road,
There's nothing really to record, it would be,
but it would be nice to have it on the deeds.
oh, on the deed, yes,
Yeah.
yes, oh, certainly, yep.
So
And we'll
that
make that
someone
clear.
buys the property and doesn't realize it. Yeah.
Right,
You're going to have to record this plan.
Yes, for the layout plan, we have to record. We wouldn't record all the detail sheets, we record the layout sheet. So we will submit, based on your vote tonight, strong vote, will submit an updated plan to address some of those technical details for final review, right?
I suspect in the coming years, we're going to be seeing more of these types of requests as land becomes increasingly scarce. I think it's worth noting that this approval is based on the very specific situation that they presented here, the specific solutions and the requests.
Right.
That this isn't a standard form that we automatically approve, that this is very specific to this project.
That's correct.
Technically, things could change if something happens out back, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that, I made that motion.
Anything further? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We're going to discuss the energy source, the blue that you have. Gentlemen, right here.
All right, just as a quick note up front, I've been receiving emails from Blue Wave, and they wanted to know what we had for zoning bylaws regarding this, and I explained we didn't have anything on the books. So that's another agenda item for tonight, to see if you want me to pursue with town council, language for zoning bylaw to be done this spring. But in the meantime, I asked him to provide information. So it's not so much, there is some information about the type of energy that he's proposing, but there's some company information and there's other stuff in here, so.
I see you've already kind of
Chief,
talked to her about
have you seen this?
Yeah, and she will, well, that's because he was calling and I'm like, we just don't have anything that this could fall under, right? So that's one of the things, that he did send this information, so it's a basis for you.
Isn't this a utility?
It's battery storage,
I would think would that be a utility?
kind of, but it's not solar
it's a-
power.
it's a
It's
fixed
something that
structure.
just, we don't even have. So I did talk to the building inspector several weeks ago, and he has some connections at Tesla. And he said he would reach out to Tesla and see if they could have somebody come in and explain how the whole energy thing works, how the battery energy stuff works. So you guys would at least have an idea of what the bylaw, the zoning bylaw would need to,
Well, We'd like to know, like, all of the, like, before people come in with their own ideas what this thing gonna do. So we
Right.
can actually answer them with intelligently, that if this leaks, explodes, or whatever it is, whatever the distance,
right,
whatever we need to take into account for
Right. Right.
separation.
right.
I think we need to know this before town meeting, and Chief, you can probably enlighten us more than anyone else right now in the room.
As best I can. It's new technology, it's constantly evolving. My suggestion would be, whether this is planning, zoning, whatever, either way, I think anybody coming in with either this type of technology or, similar battery things, it's gonna be up to current building and fire codes anyway. I think that's really the umbrella that's gonna protect everybody with this. If it was a much larger thing, like a solar array going somewhere, that would be different. That is gonna come to, I think, this board anyway. But at the same time, both the building and the fire departments are gonna be checking to make sure that that's up to current code as well. And some of these technologies are constantly changing, and I'm not quite sure, quite frankly, if some of the current codes are staying current with them, which is why I think Jim downstairs is reaching out to see what it is. And we'll do the same on my side with the state fire marshal to see if there's any change on these too. So.
Any questions?
Oh, lots. I think I joined after Bruce's frequent urging the listserv that mass planners are on, and this has become a topic that they're talking about across the state, is because they're starting to get requests about placing these things. And it's going to happen at some point. We're going to get one. They're going to probably want one in every community at the very least. But, whether or not it's not quite like a transformer pad like you have in a few spots, and it's not quite a antenna, and it's not quite a solar field, and I don't know what happens if there is a overload at one of them and a shortage out. I mean, it looks like basically it's a storage trailer. Yeah.
We're gonna protect around it.
Yeah.
We'll get it called down.
Do we need to keep it clear of trees within 50 feet in case a tree falls on it? I mean, those are the sort of questions that we need to figure out, I think, in terms of siting.
And if it smokes, if it doesn't ignite, what's the smoke?
I think there's going to be a request there's many versions of these that people can have their own homes.
That's what started this conversation, is I think somebody is looking.
Yeah.
Well, as you said, some of them are already there, I think.
So it's definitely a question we need to learn more about and figure it out.
Just to add to what Rick said, if anyone watching is interested, this Mass Planners Listserv, you can Google it. It's a discussion board. You don't have to be a planner. It's aimed at professional planners. It's aimed at members of zoning and appeal boards, planning boards, and things like that. And it's a really good forum on planning information. As Rick has said, this has been discussed, and there's some intelligent conversation on that. So anyone watching or listening to this would like more information on this, they could consult the Mass Planners List.
Did you know, Bruce, if it talks about a inverter, which is either gas powered or some kind of powered engine, that's kind of a...
Well, no, an inverter is a device that transforms like 12 volts or something like that to 120. A lot of people have them on their pickup trucks these days. That's what an inverter is.
Yeah, it's saying that the sound doesn't, noise above 60 decibels with inverters.
Yeah. An inverter is another form of generator too. But it's a common electric device.
So we'll refer this to town council, and I don't know whether this would have to be something that comes in the town warrant.
It would have to be a zoning bylaw to add it to the table of uses, so it was something you guys, I'll have her start working on a
So it would be good to have that for
bylaw.
the town meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, I'm
All right.
shooting for like February to try to get your zoning changes, so then you have March in case we have to go back to something, because town meeting's right at the start of April, so we're on an accelerated schedule this year.
All right,
Accelerated?
An accelerated schedule this year.
so we'll move from there to the expanded marijuana overlay district to Chestnut Street.
I've had several actually not conversations, there were rumors that somebody was going to do a petition article to expand the marijuana overlay district to Chestnut Street. I have not heard anybody coming in, but I thought I would let you guys see if you wanted to do it.
We're strictly on Route 18 right now, right?
Yeah, right
58,
now
50.
it's
It's on 58.
from where 1410 Bedford Street is, that's actually the lot line up to the,
58 and 18.
and the top, yeah, the,
Chestnut Street is pretty deserted on that Hancock to North Quincy Street end.
Yeah, I just keep it on 18 now.
I
My-
wouldn't have a problem going to Chestnut Street.
My understanding, Bruce, is that they are looking to, someone might be interested in taking one of the Mr. Fiore's buildings up on 500
I see.
and building a very large growing operation. So that's, I don't believe there's a building that could hold it right now on Route 18.
Well, if it comes in by petition, we'll do something about it. If it doesn't, we'll forget about it.
So one of the thoughts, from what I understand, is that the change would be to allow only cultivation and manufacturing on Chestnut Street, not retail. So you don't have another retail
I
shop.
mean, yeah, now that you say that would make sense, I guess, because it would be an industrial use and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm in favor or against it, I'm just saying that that would make sense as an occupant, as a tenant of one of those buildings, and of course they change that today.
Yeah.
Okay,
so we yes or no on that?
I would think it's something to think about. The opportunity
Yeah.
for tax revenue, and it's not a bad spot for, if
Yeah.
you limit it.
As far as the industrial cultivation and stuff like that, it's probably, it has to be anywhere, I suppose that's a good spot for it.
So growing and what?
Growing and cultivation,
No, it's manufacturing, cultivation, I think is,
manufacturing and cultivation.
so it sounds like the board is interested in cultivation, but not in retail sales.
Correct, correct.
So do you want me to send that off to town council too, to see if they can amend our bylaw and we can adopt? Okay.
I mean, my suggestion would be to basically place it over the PWED district.
Okay. Or the Muppet District?
Muppet,
Muppet,
I'm sorry.
You know,
not
one
PWED.
one of my, just looking at Chestnut Street for all these years, the thing about it is it's a throughway, and you come up behind anybody that's going slow on that road, it's always a big surprise because of the curves. So if this road becomes one where there's traffic constantly, like if it was a retail, slowing down and causing an object to hit while they're waiting to take their turn, that's what I think is, because Chestnut Street is just a throughway.
Yeah, so we'll remove the retail component from our current bylaw and modify it for that area?
That building was never intended, that complex was never intended to have retail.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I mean,
You want those kind of vehicles going.
and I commuted on that road for a long, my wife commuted on that road for 20 years, so I know what you mean.
All right, let's see, on other changes in the bylaws, is there anything that we did not vote on last spring that we want to have redone at the town meeting? I know there were a couple of things. The site plan review and where we didn't, where someone changes the plans after it's done and all that stuff, which was withdrawn. Is that something you want to work on?
The enforcement phase?
Right.
Yeah,
We were left in kind of limbo there.
So maybe if someone can,
again, yes.
if town council can give us some kind of wording that would pass and would be approvable.
I'd again like to try to work with you, particularly, Mr. Chairman, about reworking our tree planting language.
Yeah.
Especially, I think there's some new requirements with the new stormwater bylaw, so I think that needs to be done anyway.
Okay. I guess that's all I had on from last year.
Okay.
Anything else?
Stormwater requires, has limits on what can be cut down and what has to be replanted. So like, today do probably.
No, any correspondence? Nothing?
Yeah, so do you want to do the discussion of Anybody have any comments on the comprehensive permit?
Oh, didn't email you that.
Oh,
I'm
let
sorry.
me, before we do that, the bylaw enforcement, 75 Dale Street, we had that, everybody received from Mr. Ulwick on that, and that's been referred to town council.
To the town manager.
To the town manager, rather, looking into it on Dale Street. That's the tree cutting and so forth, as far as stormwater and all that stuff.
I guess there is a question, but I don't know, it's not relative to a specific project. Just rereading the language today, it basically says the building inspector can't issue a building permit unless they have an existing stormwater, whatever. But they don't need a building permit to start cutting down trees, do they? Hypothetically, if I own...
I don't know. I mean, they said they're gonna file for a stormwater permit.
This is hypothetically, if I own 10 acres of land and I start cutting down an acre in advance of a project, and I haven't filed the project yet, but I'm just removing trees.
I think there's something in there.
I wanna
that's
say I
over-
think you do.
I think it's in there
You
with,
have to, but there's no triggered necessarily.
Right.
In terms of,
I think it's an acre of land or more. If they,
yeah, but what I guess I'm saying is that the horse is already kind of out of the barn. Is
in that
they-
particular case.
In this
Yeah.
case, yeah.
And it was probably done before we had the bylaw, too.
Yeah,
And it could be done after we had the bylaw.
Yeah.
So someone can
The problem is, from the picture he sent, it's difficult to see how much land was cleared.
Well,
So,
again, I don't want to talk about a specific project because it's not necessarily on the agenda.
yeah, no,
It seemed to me that's a little bit of a loophole where if you don't have to come to town hall to get a permit, then do you know what you have to do in terms of I don't know what we can do about it, but.
so it's kind of a conundrum, so I did talk to the town manager today, and he is gonna look into it.
Okay.
There's a lot of steps, gentle steps,
Okay.
that need to be taken, I believe.
Then the only other thing remaining is the discussion, comment on the comprehensive permit, 0 Summer Street. And I'll turn this over to Bruce to handle it. I will recuse myself.
Well, hi, everyone. Bruce Hughes, Vice Chair of the Planning Board, Acting Chair. The plans are out there, I mean, and they're available at Ms. Shea's office and the town clerk's office.
Or I'd be happy to send you the link.
I'd be happy to send you the link if anyone asks that question, but I can just say that the plans are out there for public review, and if you need to get access to them, they're accessible here at Town Hall.
I would remind the zoning board, the rule is that zoning can't impose any conditions that they wouldn't normally impose on a market rate development. That's one of the standards when the housing court goes in to look at some of these things. I would remind the zoning board that the previous proponent who is proposing market rate units, a smaller market rate units, had volunteered to make traffic improvements on either end of Summer Street. So that I don't think, as part of approval of this project, including the same traffic improvements, which was, I believe, fixing the signal up at Summer Street and 58, as well as doing a traffic safety study at Walnut and Summer Street, and I think maybe even a couple other things.
Do you want me to send them the traffic review from
In the
Mr. Dirk?
recommendations.
Okay.
So the Abington zoning board, including that as a condition, wouldn't be any different than what we would have done to a market rate development, because that's what would have been done to the market rate development. They volunteered to do that.
Yep.
I would just remind them of that.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments you want me to pass along?
And good luck.
Nothing, nothing.
All right. Seeing there's no further comments, turn the meeting back over to the chair.
Motion to adjourn would be in order then, I guess.
Motion. Thank you all. Thanks, everyone, for watching this, and happy holidays.